The way you make a change in the world by building for consumers and creating communities is amazing. And you're also one of my awesome mentors from the one-on-one fellowship. Andri, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
What was the first time you even heard of venture capital?
I started thinking about entrepreneurship and innovation while I was in college, trying to build a company and thinking about business ideas. So that's when I first really started to hearing about it a little bit, but didn't give it much thought initially. But then I slowly started learning more throughout my career.
Yeah, and really from the start to right now, can you talk about that journey?
Sure, absolutely. So, I mean, for the last 2 decades, I've been focusing on entrepreneurship, innovation, and technology from very different angles, right? So, I've started a couple of companies myself. I helped kickstart the Icelandic ecosystem, building up the company that's now called Icelandic Startups, Clark Icelandic Startups. So, it's an ecosystem provider running accelerators, entrepreneurship competitions, events, and so forth. Then after running that for about 5 years, I moved to Silicon Valley, where it got sort of into the center of innovation in the world. So I did my MBA there at Stanford and then worked for a few years for LinkedIn, which was going through a hyper growth phase at the time. I saw the company more than triple in size over my tenure. So that was amazing. So I saw sort of how you build this, sort of high growth Silicon Valley style very large tech companies. Then I went on to start my own thing, did a venture-backed startup that failed. And that's where I started thinking about a little bit more about VC. I had VCs on my cap tables and angels. That's when I first started thinking like, what's the type of VC I would love, I would love to have on my cap table and have on my side. So I actually started thinking about becoming a VC or doing more investments. At the time, I started doing more angel investments. Then I actually got pulled into an interesting side direction, which was the government. So I never thought of myself as a government employee, but I got pulled into helping my country sort of going through the digital transformation. So I was the CEO of Digital Iceland, the government CIO of Iceland for about 4 years. So that was an amazing tour of duty, having a lasting impact on my country and helping them build sort of the infrastructure for consumer technology for the government. Yeah, long story short, then I figured I would sort of wrap this whole experience with big tech, small startups and government, and that sort of gave me a well enough rounded experience to jump into the dark side of VC and helping companies from that angle, and I love it.
And you really became the VC that you wanted when you were a founder. It's like when you say like you don't know how it happened, I can probably tell you that it really happened because, you really are for the people. And not only that, but you've really been in many, many high growth situations and really helping companies scale. Just like you said, LinkedIn, it grew by 3x. And then you've also ran a couple of companies, that's the best part, for VCs, if they've done it before, they can really relate to the founder. And you've also really started this ecosystem for Iceland, which is not really there until, you and like two of your friends in college kind of decided, this is a cool thing to do. And it just hit off. And it's like creating communities are hard and not many people can do it. Only people who understands people, who can feel for people can do that. And that's why, Stanford is like, hey, this guy's awesome. Let's bring him in. So, dude, like you've been in so much high growth situations. You've understand people, and that's why the Gov also loves you. They brought you in, and now you're a VC helping companies really just like help even more people because you're mentoring, you're advising them, you're investing in them, so then they can really invest in the future of Iceland. And that's a amazing part about you is because you're all about the people. One of my questions is, you really went from across the world for your MBA. Like, what made you quit Innovate to really just go and do the MBA when you are kind of successful here in?
Iceland is a small country, and I wanted to learn and see how others in the world were doing things, and sort of having found my passion in tech entrepreneurship and innovation. I mean, Silicon Valley is such a natural place to go and understand and understand the scale of things, and being surrounded with all these iconic companies, legendary generational companies that we all know. Like now we have OpenAI, we've seen all these companies, LinkedIn, Facebook, all of these big companies, Uber, Airbnb, I could go on and on. So I really wanted to sort of immerse myself in that community, understand, get to know people, build my network, and really learn, because I think it's super important, and even more so important when you're from smaller communities, that you get other perspectives and benchmarks for what's high growth, what's real excellence. And so that's really why I wanted to move to the Valley and do my MBA there. So it's a great segment for that.
It's one of the most difficult things, really, just like moving for 2 straight years, all because you're really curious. You just want to learn new things and other people's perspectives. So what would you say you actually like took away, as in like your major takeaways from that journey?
Mhm. Well, I think, number one is the people. I mean, you're surrounded by super smart people, but then you also realize they are just like you. They're just normal people with, their pros and cons, and you know, they're just the ambition, the level of ambition, and the network, and sort of the thinking that nothing is impossible. Observing, some classmates and peers building iconic, legendary companies, and seeing that from day one. You also just, talk directly to founders. I mean, you would have all of the founders of these most iconic companies often come to classes and talk about their journeys. And so I think you can get the content in many MBAs and many schools. You can get it online, but it's all about the network and the people, and the sort of peer community. That was what I thought was by far the best, that left a lasting impact.
Yeah, and it's like people really go to the valley because of its environment. Because like
Mhm.
once you step into there, and I remember the first time I actually just went to visit, it was a different atmosphere. Everyone was hustling, everyone had
Mhm.
ambitions, and
Yeah.
really it's like chaoticness is like the natural. It's like the average. It's like
Uh-huh.
what everyone should be. So no matter what, it's like if you really live in that place, you get an energy that most places don't really give you. And it sounds like you really had some major takeaways where not only did you form some network, amazing people who, that the valley is a give back culture where it's like everyone's giving back, they're investing in other people as well. And I bet it also like really transformed the way, you brought your knowledge back to Iceland. So with all these perspectives and looking at all these people, understanding all these people, who would you say VC is not for?
I mean, I don't think it's for everyone. It's a very different type of job. I think, I have a lot of friends who have thought about doing VC, um, but actually come to realize they love being operators. So, for example, VC is not, if you love being an operator, it may not be the right choice for you. Like, so it very much depends. If you are, for example, also if you love going insanely deep on a specific topic, you have to be sort of a generalist being a VC. Even if you have, a segment that you're focusing on, a deep tech or a certain vertical, like you're still generalist because you're working with a lot of different companies and portfolios. So you end up, having, going not too deep, going a little bit more shallow on multiple different companies, so I think that's, one. Also, you have to love finance, investing, and that part of things. So it's definitely not for everyone. But it's hard to pinpoint exactly who it's not. I mean, you have so many different types of VCs and investors, so and that's one of the things I love about this. It's that it's an industry where multiple strategies work. So there isn't a one strategy that just really works. multiple strategies, and the strategy that fits me might not fit for some other VC, and vice versa. So it's hard to say.
Yeah, and it's like VC. One of the greatest thing about it is that so much people from different paths can actually go into VC because it's more of a people's thing. Like you have
Hmm.
to see talent, you gotta have the investor eye, kind of like Andri, and you guys just understand people. So like you said, maybe some people prefer being operators. Maybe they just like to lead the front line, the charge, instead of
Hmm.
helping, advise, and supporting role. So, what would you say was
Exactly.
like the hardest things in the first few months when you were transitioning into VC?
Well, I think for me, it was very much of a smooth transition. Since I've been in the ecosystem for almost 2 decades, I've been advising and coaching entrepreneurs for almost 2 decades. I've also been angel investing. I had a portfolio of roughly 25 angel investments before moving into VC. So for me, it was very gradual. I knew very much what I was going into. I was already on the board of several startups. So for me, I think it was fairly smooth ride. The one thing I had to learn more about is the VC and the finance side of things, things like portfolio allocation or structure, all these types of things. You have to like get LP relationships is another one. But it went very well. I mean, I joined an established fund with amazing two other general partners, and so I learned a lot from them, and they made the ride pretty smooth for me.
Yeah, and it sounds like, you had all the skills that can't really be taught, and you had that all down. And then for everything else, the technical stuff, anyone can teach that. Like that's just like the basic stuff. How about like when you were Angel? Like when you
Mhm.
first transitioned to Angel, was it just like you were a teacher and you were also like a founder and you on the side you kind of just like said, okay, these guys are good, let me just invest in them? Or was it more intentional, as in like
Mhm.
you said you wanted to be an angel and I just wanted to like this amount of investments per year?
Mhm. Yeah, so great question. So I would say two things. One, I've always enjoyed helping and supporting other entrepreneurs. So whether that's through coaching or mentoring or angel investment. So for me personally, that was definitely a part of it. I just wanted to give back and help other entrepreneurs. On a more personal side, I actually started doing angel investment when I first started thinking about, hey, maybe I should, I would, I had this thesis that I would love investing and sort of dedicate more and more of my career to that. So that's why I figured like starting doing an angel investment portfolio actually helps me do that. It helps me understand, start building more of the pattern recognition skills, seeing a lot of deal flow, reading through decks and meeting entrepreneurs. So I actually just did it, for several years on the side just to understand, is it something that I think I would love, or is it something I actually will continue to enjoy over the years? So that actually helped me sort of solidify that it wasn't just a good idea to be an investor. I think a lot of people think it sounds great to be an investor, but it wasn't just a good idea. I loved what I was doing. I continued to love seeing pitches and trying to understand and predict, VC is about, I would say, four things. Effectively, it's sourcing. Like, do you get to see great deals? Then when you see all these great deals, are you good at picking? Do you actually make, good decisions along the way? Then it's about helping the companies growing and then exiting. So it's simple, but it's every single part is super hard. So for me, angel investing was about building up some of those muscles and understanding, do I love this, or and am I any good at this? Am I good at picking? And yeah, so that was my thinking around it.
You've been lecturing at universities for like 5 years. You've done like so much mentorship. I can personally attest to like how great of a mentor you are in the one-on-one
Thank you.
fellowship. Like you taught me tons. And it's like, you know, when you really build that muscle, that's how you know you're good at something. And you were obviously already good at VC, at angel investing, but you just had to get that little conversation confirmation and be like, okay, yes, I am good. And you're amazing at it. So could you talk about like, you were doing angel investing in the side. Was your deal flow, was it from like the university students? What was that major part of the deal flow from? And are you still using the same methods as in to get those founders in VC for now?
Yeah, so it's a little bit divided. So here locally in Iceland, my deal flow is mostly inbound, and I follow being the founder of Innovate and Clark Icelandic Startups and an entrepreneurship competition Golden Egg that's been running for 18 years. So I see a lot here, and I know a lot of people in the community, I would say. So I get a lot of inbound here in locally, but then I would use AngelList and particularly a lot of my Stanford network actually through AngelList. So I would join in on deals from other Stanford community angels or VCs and join some of those syndicates. So for angel investing, I used AngelList quite a lot to build my sourcing.
All these resources, our audience wouldn't know unless like, VCs actually talk about them. And many VCs, they really just go from a similar journey like you. It's like they're a founder, they're really successful on the side. They want to help people and they want to help people who's kind of been in the same spot as them a couple years in the past. And that's how they started angel investing. And once they do angel investing, they prove that, they're actually kind of pretty good at it, just like Andre, and then they go on maybe to do VC or even to start another company if they kind of want to. So when you're looking for startups, what is the top three things you look for when you're deciding when or whether to invest?
Mhm. So it's super hard to pinpoint it exactly. It actually depends a little bit on what type of company and so forth. But that said, generalizing always, I mean, we're early stage, so it's a lot about the people, about that. So team first. You have to get to know the team, understand are they going to persevere through all the challenges that building a startup is, and are they going to give up? So you have to. So number one is the team. Um, Number two, I would say we focus a lot on the problem. So we love founders or startup ideas where you're really solving a painful problem. So we, as investors in my fund, Frumtak Ventures, we don't do a lot of consumer. We don't do a lot of sort of gaming, for example, because it's less. It's more about emotions. It's about some, it's more about art. We love the science part of things, meaning that you're solving a real difficult problem that companies are willing to pay for. So we actually really try to understand the problem and why you want to solve this problem. And I call it, I mean, this is not a new term, but sort of like a founder market fit. Are you really just going to solve this problem? Like the first attempt at it might fail, but are you going to just keep on iterating or pivoting until you find a solution? So that's super important. Then the third part is sort of around the market or the size of the market or the opportunity. And it's sometimes really hard to say, but like we have to understand, is this a venture scale business? I would say the most startups that I reject, and I have a lot of great entrepreneurs, people with great ideas come to me, and it sucks always saying no to those people because it's just you can build multiple different types of businesses. You could build lifestyle businesses. You could build operational business. You could build a small business, a big business. But is it a venture scale business? Because our model is built on a power law. We're trying to find the outliers. And if we don't think you have the potential to build a globally leading company in your chosen space that has potentially a venture scale outcome, even if we love what you're building, it's not a fit for us. So, categorizing, this into three things. I would say these three things, like the founders, the problem, and is the opportunity VC scale.
Yeah, and it's like the team, literally the most
Mhm.
important. But like Anji says, if he had to choose, the other two would be: is the company actually venture backable? Like, is it actually gonna go to like 100, 1,000 times, you know, X the investment? And then also like, is it a little more with a moat, as in like not anyone can just like kind of get into the space and just like copy your product and do everything that you did easily. Like, what is your distribution and all of that stuff? You have to have the moat. And that's why Frumtak likes sciencey, type businesses. And, if you're a small business, that's okay, but it's just not venture backable. Uh, could you talk about one or two stories of your greatest investments? How did you met the founders? Uh, how did you know that they were the one?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's only a couple of years since I joined Frumtak Ventures, so in all honesty, it's a little bit too early for me to tell. We'll see in about 5 to 10 years if some of my early investments are going to be successful. But I can maybe talk a little bit about our fund in general, and it's interesting because I myself, because I've known Frumtak since the very beginning, when I was building the ecosystem here in Iceland, and I started this Golden Egg entrepreneurship competition. And so there's actually some of my early winners that I was helping backing, and I chose early on in the competitions actually received venture funding from Frumtak. So I've sort of seen the whole full circle of being helping these early. One of the best ones that I mean, still company is growing, and we, still we think it has a massive upside still. It's a company called Controllant. They are leaders, global leaders in pharma supply chain real-time monitoring, working with some of the world's largest pharmaceutical companies, and so that's an example of a company that they won my competition some 15 years ago, and then a couple of years later, Frumtak invested, and now I've joined Frumtak. So that's one example of a great company that I helped fund. Another one that's gone through a up and down roller coaster. It's called Menica. Similar story. I helped them early on. I read their first business plan and helped them in the early and advised them in the early days. And then Frumtak invested, and I'm now on the board of this company and helping them grow. And they're already profitable company. Didn't fully realize the venture type return, but it's still a very, very strong, profitable, growing fintech company that's doing well. So these are maybe a couple of stories that I can speak to, but we'll see. It takes about a decade to see how good I am at this.
The amazing thing is that the company really came from your competition. And it's like when you kind of started Innovate with two of your friends in college, and then it kind of merged into what later became Iceland Startups. You
Mhm.
guys host events and startup competitions and really created this large community. What was like, how do you do it? As in, like, what unique methods do you use to create this community and bring it all together?
Mhm. Yeah, well, it's hard to build communities. I think, one part of it, you just have to get a movement around you. You have to be persuasive, you have to be motivating, you have to lead by example, and sort of, you just have to build a following. And it's hard to pinpoint exactly how you do it. You just have to really show the energy and get things done. In my case, like what we realized, and I think this is very much true still for today for startups and a lot of communities, is like you don't always have to invent the wheel, or like find something that's working well elsewhere. So that's in many ways what we did. We modeled this entrepreneurship competition that I mentioned. We looked at the MIT 100K competition, which was and still is the famous entrepreneurship competition out of MIT. We talked to them, we met them, we brought some of them to Iceland to help us, and we modeled a lot of similar things. We, obviously adjusted it to our local community. We changed the name and so, but it was similar things, and I think that's often overlooked. Is like look at what others are doing well and see if you can adapt it and do something similar. Um, so that's what we did.
Yeah, and this is the most important thing about like business or even in life, where you really look at what other people has done well, and then really just like take what those top people do in your field and then do exactly what they do. And obviously what worked for them wouldn't always work for you. So you just have to really iterate it a bit and heck, it's just gonna work out if you just do this again and again and again and again until something actually works. On the event side, bonding with founders and bonding with other VCs is the best way for aspiring VCs. And you do this really by setting up events. What would you say is the basics of setting up a really, really great event?
Well, it very much depends on what you're trying to get out of it. I mean, sometimes you want like a great agenda and great people. Sometimes you actually don't want any agenda. For example, at Frumtak, we host these Friday drinks events, every quarter, where there's literally, we advertise that there's no agenda, no speeches, no panels, no nothing. It's only investors and founders getting together for an informal drink. So it very much depends on what you want to get out of it, and why you're doing it. Yeah, but try to just get good people together and yeah, find some common ground.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is that it can be something as simple as a Friday drinks night or something like, heck, let's just go for a run. And it's like these things where people think events have to be so elaborate, so planned, where the best way sometimes to do it is just by really being in the flow of things, where it's like it's so natural to do something like with your friends, and then you just do it with these strangers who will become your friends in the future. So for aspiring VCs, what would you say, if they're in Iceland, what would you say is the two best ways to find these events?
Well, I think, I mean, uh, find events. I mean, there's just talk to people in the community, like get on email list, follow what's going on, or whatever, it's Luma or Facebook or these event sites, LinkedIn. Ask people around what are the best events. I don't think there's much rocket science behind it. Just trying to look for something exciting.
Okay, I'm just a natural at this. How, let's say you form a connection, as in you go out to one of these events, you kind of made a friend. How do you maintain those connections if, let's say, they were a high net worth individual or someone who's like really senior to you, really busy? How would you and what unique methods have you used to really maintain those high level relationships?
That's a good question. So it depends on people, but I would say from my experience, one thing is asking how you can actually be helpful. And it applies to, regardless if it's a more high level person than you are or someone that's more, your peer, is don't try to think about it. I think people naturally tend to think like, what can I get out of it? Like, how do I keep these connections for me? Try to flip it around and just ask like, without me getting anything from it, it's like, how can I be helpful? Can I, if there's like a high level person, is there any way I can be helpful to them? Like maybe they're trying to understand the market for, the Gen Z or the next generation behind, and they can be helpful there. So just literally ask, hey, can I be helpful in any way? So that's one. I think the other part is just being interesting, being authentic, and people like even like the most top senior leaders and executives, VCs, they love hearing about passionate people who are solving something and seeing them progress and so forth. So, in my opinion, it doesn't always have to be, you don't have to, good relationship. You don't have to necessarily stay in touch all the time and always be pinging and keeping it like, you can leave it be and just like, have it meaningful when you reach out, when you're in the same city, share a personal update from time to time. Just sort of, yeah, just try to build up your Rolodex of people and understand if you can actually be helpful to that.
That's the most important part, is that it is what can you give to that person rather than, hey, what can I gain? As in, like, if you're really authentic and you're always thinking about like, hey, what can I give to you, like, what can I give that you're working on and you need? And
Yeah.
if you keep thinking of that, you keep giving, then the other person's gonna be like, okay, so what can I give back to you? So it kind of happens a little naturally, or it
Hmm.
can even happen like, okay, now they're thinking of you a lot more. now if a
Yeah.
role opens up, they they're like, okay, so that guy, he sounds like he's looking for it. He's openly telling people that he's looking for it, but he didn't tell me. But I know, and he's been really helpful to me. Let's introduce him. So it's like
Yeah.
you kind of have them in the top of your mind in a way. And at the same time, it's like you're not asking for anything from them.
Mhm.
Could you give like examples of how you give like personal updates? Because I know you mentioned you give personal updates. You really just like doesn't matter if it's been a long time since you've seen them, but you keep it really genuine. You keep a really, really good meeting once you really do. So could you give an example of in between, as in like obviously, you probably meeting them once in a while, but how do you give those personal updates if you're not meeting them?
Well, first of all, is asking like, do they actually want personal updates? So like, you also have to be respectful. If you're talking to like a top, you know, publicly listed CEO, they get so much emails, message. They don't necessarily want all these updates. So like, you have to be just mindful of like, what do people want? Sometimes it's just as easy as sharing updates regularly on LinkedIn, and they'll see some of it and some not. Let the algorithm distribute it for you. Otherwise, it's just you have to be. I would say the hard part is there isn't a rule to do it. Like if it feels becoming too calculated, like you're doing it every 3 months like a clockwork, that to me will start feels authentic. This is like it's sometimes just like, hey, you see something that reminds me of someone, and you just send them like, hey, I saw this, reminded of you, hope all is good, right? So it's sometimes just as easy as that. Um, so be thoughtful and personal about it.
Yeah. And important takeaway there is really make it natural, like really make it flow, as in like it really just popped into your mind, like, hey, I'm thinking of you. It's like I saw this thing on the news. It could be even like an article,
Yeah,
and then I was like, I'm thinking of you, dude. Like, dude, you did so amazing. I just want to say congrats. And you're not really asking for anything. You're just like
exactly. Yeah.
genuinely as a friend, saying like, hey, congrats on this new relationship. Congrats
Mhm.
on having a trophy in this tournament. It's just really, really genuine and really, really natural. I know that, since, you're really become a natural at being a people's person due to really mentoring for tons of years. You've been a lecturer for 5 years. You've really just like done tons of stuff in the startup space. Could you talk about what is the best type of mentoring style?
Well, I think it depends on the people. Like, so you might have a very different mentoring style than I do, and I need different types of mentoring than you do. So again, it talks about personalization and what's personal to you. So I don't think there's a right or wrong mentoring style. It very much depends. I'm fairly, I guess, about things, and that works for some people, some not. Yeah, it depends. I don't think there's a right or wrong style. I think people, as mentees, like you need to choose your mentors carefully and figure out the type of mentors you want. I would say the only thing that I sort of keep in mind as sort of rule of thumb, be it, sort of in the back of my mind when I'm mentoring is is not trying to say stuff that I don't know, anything about. I think way too many mentors, way too many board members, they're just sharing their opinions without having any substance between it. So I try to sort of distinguish between, hey, this is an opinion versus this is, where I might be right or wrong, and it's an anecdotal opinion versus, where I actually have some uh, solid background or experience directly myself, that I can be a little bit more direct. And then you can share, examples and stories from others that you can try to synthesize for the mentee. So I think, that's if it's a balance of being, opinionated versus directional, I guess, and trying to be helpful. Because I've seen way too many board members that claim they're helping and think actually they think they're helping, but they're just anecdotal opinions without any substance behind it.
This actually really goes back to the point where you says like even though someone could be a technical VC, as in like they were a specialist in the past and
Hmm.
they're focusing on a specific niche, they don't really know like everything about that area, as in like they kind of are a generalist in a way.
Yep.
And when you're a mentee, you got to really know like, hey, is has my mentor really done that before and seen like other people he trusts done that before? Or is it just like, hey, I heard this really great idea from my friend and you should do it. It sounds good. Because most of the time when things sound good, maybe they work, maybe they don't. But honestly, like 75% of the time, it doesn't really work. So the way that I also help my interns is that when I'm mentoring them, kind of similar to you, like I make sure that I only give them exactly what I have done in the past, what really worked, and really just like let them replicate that and really transform it into what they really have in their own style. And if I have never done something before and I suggest it to them, I'm like, I haven't done this, but it sounds like a cool idea. Check it out
Hmm.
and see what
Yeah.
goes. And this is really, really important when you find a mentor, just like Anju says, you really, really have to be specific and you have to know if they're saying exactly what they know rather than, what they just think is cool.
Yeah.
For Let's switch gears for a moment. So for the aspiring VCs listening to this, talk about like the key reasons you personally landed your GP role in Frumtak.
Well, that's a good question. So I mean, you'd probably have to ask my partners this to get the full story. Well, but I think I've known them for 15 years. I've known from Tech Ventures since they were started, and I was building the ecosystem. So we've known each other for a long time, and for me it was a very like I mentioned earlier, like a natural path. I love helping entrepreneurs. I've been angel investing. I've been a founder. I've been an operator, and I have a um, strong opinion on what type of VC I would love to be. And so I thought, that was the key thing, and there was an opening in Frumtak, and I started talking to the existing partners. We took a pretty long time, several months to discuss and understand if we had shared vision, shared ideas, if we were on the same page. Because for me, joining Frumtak, it was a long term plan, long term commitment, and vice versa for them. It's similar to when you're investing. It's a long-term relationship that you have to be pretty sure that you want to stay in. And so that's sort of how it happened. I already had built my reputation here in Iceland in the tech community, so I think that probably helped as well. I already have strong network. I have a strong pipeline of deals and so forth.
Also, like you mentioned earlier, it's like you already formed a relationship where your competition, like the startup that won the competition and got funded by Frumtech, really became a really, really successful business that kind of just like partners with the biggest pharma companies in the world. And would you say that you also were able to bring in LP money, as in like when you were a software engineer for a pension fund, or like from the gov? Like, would you say that's a part of it as well, or are you more
No,
the deal flow
honestly, yeah, no, honestly, I don't think that was part of it. I think, my existing partner already had a great relationship with the VCs. I mean, I definitely contributed. I think we complement each other very well. Like I come from a more technical background than them. So I think from an LP perspective, it was a great, I hopefully would like to say it was a good addition to the team and we worked really well together. But no, I didn't, I wouldn't say that was a big part of it. They already, had three funds already before I joined, so they already had that part pretty much in place. So I would rather say I was lucky to have the opportunity to become part of that team and tap into their relationship with LPs and experience.
Yeah, and Andri found what gaps that Frumtak had to fill, and he filled them. Looking ahead, what trends in venture capital are you most excited about right now? What really is being overlooked in the market if you want to build in the next 5 years?
I'm excited to understand how, like everyone else, is like how AI is going to change VC, change tech startups, change. You can now it seems like you can do a lot more with less. So I think that might change. It's also interesting to understand how these sort of big multi-stage funds are really, really growing, and I think potentially there will be some consolidation in the VC space where you on one end you're going to have sort of these big, more multi-stage, multi-strategy funds with a lot of different types of products, ranging from early stage to late stage secondaries and public market investing, which you're seeing. And then on the other end, I think you're going to go a little bit more back to just like the more old-fashioned small craft, small teams of operators, or people with some real skills in the craft of building venture-backed companies. And at least that's where we see ourselves. We are going to stay small, nimble, few partners that are very hands-on. We love building companies. We love the craft of venture. And so I think you're going to see a little bit of those two different. I think they, like I mentioned in the beginning, like there are multiple paths and a strategy that works. And we think continuing with relatively small funds, 80 to 100 million funds is the way to go for at least our fund.
Yeah, and it's really Frumtech's mission where it's all led by operators. It's all led by founders who have done it before. And it's founders helping founders. That is a grand mission. I know that you talked a bit about how to break the VC from your experience as like a mentor from university, lecturer for 5 years, and also like startup and up to now. What would be your recommended 6 month plan to fully break into VC for our uni student audience?
So if you're just graduating from university and you all of a sudden figure out, oh, I want to get into VC, it's hard. Like you have to, I would say you have to build up first. Why do you want to go to VC? Is it just because it's hot, or is it something you're really passionate about? So I would actually say be involved in all the entrepreneurial activities in university, do a startup, get that experience, understand why you want to do this. So I don't think it's a 6 months plan. You need more. You need to have built up to it either by being a founder or being involved in the community and shown some strong leadership skills in that regard. Now, if you have that and you're now figuring out your 6 months plan, I think it's about relationship and understanding what you can bring to the VCs. Like, is your path, like, are you planning to be an analyst or an associate for a couple of years and then go into a startup? It's not common. I mean, there's clearly exceptions, but it's not common that, people right out of college or universities, graduate and join a VC and enter the partner track. The partner track is more commonly someone who's been an operator, gotten really good results and so forth. But sometimes it can be a great stepping stone. So it's obviously roles, that junior roles that you do for a couple of years, and then you maybe join a startup in the fund. Yeah. Figure out if you like entrepreneurship first. That would probably be my best advice.
And say that you really just figured it out and you're like, okay, yes, I want to do VC, and you're kind of integrated a little bit into the system as well. What would you just like kind of summarize your 6 month as in month one, month two, month three?
Mhm. I don't know if there's a clear path to that, and it's hard to pinpoint exactly in which months you can do what. Like, it's just about doing the same things, like reaching out to VCs. Why can you provide value? Maybe build a small portfolio on AngelList to show that you have a good judgment or that you can source deal. You have to provide them with something unique. Yeah. So talk to VCs, get coffee, see if people are willing to meet you, and just do that for all 6 months. I don't think there's a different path for, first couple of months and then turn into something different. You just gotta do the grind until you land a job.
It's like Andy says, do the grind and stick to it, and you're gonna find success. Especially like when you're starting out, your 6 months is kind of the most important because once you're actually really consistent for those 6 months, it's kind of really natural to just like continue doing what already has been successful. You've been making good connections with the founders, and then you try to send those deals to VCs. And if they say like, hey, that's a good deal, or if they somehow just like invest in it, then bam, like you really, really have made a good solid connection, just like Andre has. It's like his competition really had the victor, and the Frumtak invested it in the and it was a successful investment. So he had a really, really good connection to Frumtak. And then when he was just like talking about, hey, can I join? Like, and then they're gonna be like, yes, yes, please, please come. So for the people in the past that you can hire, maybe even interns from one-on-one fellowship or other interns, VC interns, what would you say is that like some stuff that they did outside of what was required that made you proud?
That's a good question. So, I mean, there's been so many things that have made me proud. I would say if I look all the way back, I mean, it's the starting of Innovate and the Golden Egg competition, and seeing that it's still running. So it's been running now for 18 years, and you've seen all these entrepreneurs and companies come out of it, and people learning and building things. So I think that's definitely been a big part of it. So then there's been different types of moments, like I'm incredibly proud to have built some amazing products at LinkedIn. I mean, I was a part of the initial team that built the LinkedIn mobile app that we're currently still using. So I was a part of that team and remember that vividly when we launched the app for the first time. So that was cool. Yeah, and a bunch of different moments.
And that's the most amazing part is when you look back and if you're like Andre, you look back and then you're like, that was a journey that I would do again, then you really, really had done a fulfilling journey. And that is how you should live your life. Okay, so now for a few rapid fire questions to wrap up
Sure.
a few words or one sentence. Ready?
Yep.
If you could invest in any startup from the past, which one would it be?
Well, it would definitely be DoorDash. I knew the founders of DoorDash from the very beginning. I wasn't investing at the time, but I wish I would have been investing then.
Awesome. What is your favorite place to travel to but haven't yet?
Favorite place? Well, that I haven't traveled, that's hard. I really want to go to do more trips to South America, places like Brazil and Patagonia and Argentina. Those are fairly high on my list.
Amazing. What is one fun fact about you most people don't know?
Well, most people, at least in VC, don't know that back in college and high school, I was in a national fencing team. So I was the Icelandic champion in fencing. I love that sport. So, but haven't done it for a while. But yeah, a lot of people don't know that about me.
Dude, that is amazing. Is there any thoughts you want to finish or we didn't cover on this pod that you would like to talk about?
Well, I think it's been great. A lot of amazing topics. It's been really fun talking to you. No, I think maybe I'll just wrap it up with just be true to, if you are thinking about going into VC, be true to yourselves. Don't go into it because it's hip or cool. Try to really understand if that's what you want to do, what you can bring of value, I would say the best experience is starting by doing a startup. So think about if that's something you want to do.
The best way to start is to become a founder and really just experience that startup space on the founder side as well to understand what they're feeling through the process. That was amazing, Andre. For anyone listening who wants to learn more about you or your firm, what is the best place to reach you?
Well, I would say LinkedIn is where I'm most active. So feel free to follow me on LinkedIn, follow Frumtak on LinkedIn, or check our website. And feel free to reach out there anytime.
And I'll put his LinkedIn in the description below. Out of everyone you know, who are two amazing VCs that you would recommend as future guests to our podcast?
Oh, that's a good one. Well, obviously, I haven't discussed this with them, but two VCs that I look to a lot from my Stanford network are Mike Dubow at Greylock Partners. He's amazing. Learned a lot from him. And the other one that comes to mind is maybe because I just came from Estonia is one of the partners at Plural, Stan Tamkivi. He's also an amazing founder turned VC. So there may be a couple of ideas for the podcast if they're up to it.
Awesome. Thank you again, and thanks to everyone who's listening. Comment a question you want to hear from Andri or our next guest. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to press the subscribe button, like, and share it with someone who's interested in getting into venture. We'll see you next time on Break into VC.